Day stepped off the transport ship and immediately felt small. The docking bay of Coalition Station Omega-7 stretched out before him like a metal canyon, and everywhere he looked, giants walked. Massive alien warriors with thick armor plating stomped past him. Flying creatures with 4 wings swooped overhead. Even the smallest aliens here stood taller than any human he had ever seen. Day carried his single bag and tried not to get stepped on. He was a xenobiologist fresh from Earth's academy, and this was his first real assignment. The station was home to dozens of alien species, all working together in the Galactic Coalition. Humans had only joined 5 years ago, and they were still the new kids on the block. A Kraith warrior nearly knocked him over. The creature stood 9 feet tall, covered in natural armor that looked like black metal. It glanced down at Day and snorted. The translator in Day's ear turned the sound into words. "Watch where you stand, soft skin." Day pressed himself against the wall and let the warrior pass. His hands shook slightly. He had known humans were considered weak by galactic standards, but seeing it in person was different. Back on Earth, he had been average height and build. Here he felt like a child among adults. The research division was on level 43. Day found his way there using the station map on his datapad. The halls were busy with scientists and soldiers. Most ignored him completely. A few stared at him like he was an interesting insect. His supervisor was waiting in the main lab. Commander Thex was a Velcros, a reptilian species with green scales and cold yellow eyes. The creature's tongue flicked out as Day approached. "You are the human," Thex said. It was not a question. "Day, your file says you graduated top of your class." "Yes, Commander," Day replied. He tried to stand straighter. "Your class was all humans," Thex said flatly. "That means nothing here. You will start with basic cataloging work. Do not touch any dangerous specimens. Do not enter any restricted areas. Your species is too fragile for real field work." Day felt his face grow hot, but he nodded. "I understand, Commander." Thex turned away, already dismissing him. "Your workstation is in the corner. Try not to break anything." The next few days were humiliating. Day sorted data files and cleaned equipment while other scientists did actual research. An insect-like alien named Chick Chick took pity on him and explained how things worked. "Humans have a reputation problem," Chick Chick said, his mandibles clicking. "You are seen as emotional, weak. Your bodies break easily. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. The Coalition only accepted your species because you are good at diplomacy and you breed fast." "We are not that weak," Day protested. Chick Chick made a sound like laughter. "Compared to most species here? Yes, you are. A Kraith could tear you apart with one hand. A Vryn could gut you before you even saw them move. Even I am stronger than you, and my species is considered small." Day wanted to argue, but he had no good response. Everything Chick Chick said was true. On his 4th day, alarms blared through the station. Day looked up from his work, confused. Other scientists immediately started securing equipment and moving to designated safe zones. "What is happening?" Day asked. "Containment breach drill," Chick Chick explained. "We practice in case a dangerous specimen escapes. Move to the exit quickly." Day grabbed his datapad and joined the flow of bodies heading for the doors. The hallway was chaos. Large aliens pushed forward, and Day found himself shoved against the wall again and again. A Kraith warrior simply walked through the crowd, and Day had to dive aside to avoid being trampled. He made it to the safe zone last, breathing hard. A medical officer scanned him for injuries. "You have bruises forming," the officer said. "Nothing serious. You should be more careful." That evening, Day met another human in the station cafeteria. Her name was Yuna, and she worked as an engineer in the maintenance division. She was the first human face he had seen in days. "You look like you have had a rough week," Yuna said, sitting across from him with her food tray. "That obvious?" Day asked. "I have been here 6 months," Yuna said. "I know that look. Let me guess. Everyone treats you like you are made of glass. They give you the easy jobs. They do not take you seriously." "Exactly," Day said. He felt relieved to finally talk to someone who understood. Yuna nodded. "It is the same everywhere on the station. Humans are barely tolerated here. Most species think we are too soft, too emotional, too weak. They wonder why the Coalition even accepted us." "How do you deal with it?" Day asked. "I work twice as hard as everyone else," Yuna said. "I prove myself every single day. And even then, most aliens still see me as inferior. But what choice do we have? This is the galaxy we live in now." Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion near the entrance. Day turned to see a group of aliens entering the cafeteria, and the entire room seemed to shift. Other species moved out of the way, some lowering their heads in respect or fear. "Vryn," Una whispered. "Oh wow, I have never seen one in person." Day stared. The Vryn were legends throughout the galaxy. They were the most feared predator species in known space. The three Vryn walking through the cafeteria were each about 8 feet tall, with bodies that mixed feline grace with reptilian features. They had 4 arms ending in clawed hands. Their faces were covered in sleek fur with scale patterns underneath, and their eyes glowed with an inner light. The lead Vryn was clearly the alpha. His fur was dark gray with silver markings, and scars covered his visible skin. He moved with absolute confidence, and every other species in the room watched him warily. "That is Kar," someone whispered nearby, "the apex hunter. He has killed things that could destroy entire armies." Kar's eyes swept across the cafeteria, and for a brief moment, they locked onto Day. The Vryn's gaze was like being seen by a great cat. Day felt his heart race. Then Kar looked away, dismissing him as unimportant. "Why are Vryn here?" Dee asked Una quietly. "I heard rumors," Una said. "The Coalition is planning an expedition to a death world. They must need hunters." "A death world?" Dee repeated. Una nodded. "A planet so dangerous that most species cannot survive there. If they are bringing in Vryn hunters, it must be serious." The next morning, Commander Thex called Day into his office. "You are being assigned to an expedition team," the Velcro said without preamble. Day blinked. "Me? But you said I was too fragile for fieldwork." "I did." "You are," Thex said, "but the expedition needs a xenobiologist who specializes in hostile ecosystems. You are the only one available. The planet is called Cathara. 3 expeditions have already failed there. Try not to be the 4th. "Who else is on the team?" Day asked. "Kar the Apex Hunter will lead," Thex said. "He is bringing 2 of his pack. There will also be a Kraith warrior and a scout." "And you?" Day felt his stomach drop. He would be traveling with Vryn hunters to one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy, and everyone on the team would see him as the weakest link. Thex must have seen his expression. "I am sure you will be fine," the commander said. But his tone suggested he believed the opposite. "You leave in 2 days. Prepare yourself." Dee walked out of the office in a daze. Una found him in the hallway. "I heard," she said. "Dee, please be careful. Vryn only respects strength. If they think you are useless, they might just leave you behind." "I know," Day said quietly. That night, Day could not sleep. He lay in his quarters staring at the ceiling, wondering if he would survive the next few weeks. He was a scientist, not a warrior. He had no combat training. No special abilities. He was just a human trying to survive in a galaxy that saw his entire species as weak. But he had not come to the stars to hide. He had come to prove that humans belonged here, among the other species of the Coalition. Even if it killed him, he would show them that humans were more than they appeared to be. He just had to figure out how. The expedition ship was called the Talon's Edge, and it smelled like blood and metal. Day boarded with his equipment pack, trying not to look as nervous as he felt. The ship belonged to the Vryn, and everything about it was designed for predators. Sharp angles everywhere, dark corridors, weapons mounted on every wall. Kar was waiting in the main hold with his pack. The other 2 Vryn were named Rax and Shaw. Rax was slightly larger than Kar, with rust-colored fur and more scars. Shaw was smaller and faster-looking, with black fur marked with white stripes. All 3 watched Day board with expressions that made him feel like prey. "This is the human," Kar said to his pack. His voice was deep and rough. "The soft one they sent us." "It looks like it would break if I breathed on it," Rax said. His 4 arms crossed over his chest. "Why do we need this creature?" "It knows about hostile planets," Kar said. "The Coalition says we need it to survive Cathara." Shaw circled around Day, studying him. "It has no claws, no fangs, no armor. How does this species survive anything?" "Tools," Day said quietly. He was terrified, but he refused to show it. "We use tools and intelligence." Kar's eyes narrowed. "Tools break. Intelligence means nothing when something is trying to eat you. On Cathara, only the strong survive. I do not think you are strong." The Kraith warrior entered before Day could respond. His name was Gron, and he was even more dismissive than the Vryn. "A human," Gron said with disgust. "This expedition is doomed. The scout species, a flying alien called Pip with feathered wings, was the only one who seemed neutral. "Let us just do the job and go home," Pip said. "I do not care what species anyone is." The journey to Cathara took 3 days. Day spent most of the time reviewing data about the planet and trying to stay out of everyone's way. The previous expeditions had all disappeared without sending detailed reports. The few transmissions they received before communication cut off mentioned aggressive fauna, toxic plants, and extreme hostility from the environment itself. On the second day, Day noticed something odd in the atmospheric data. He brought it to Carr. "The oxygen levels fluctuate," Day explained, showing the Vrin his data pad. "And there are chemical markers that suggest the planet has active predator populations that use coordinated hunting tactics. We should be careful about where we land." Carr barely glanced at the data. "I have hunted on 100 death worlds," he said. "I do not need a soft skin to tell me how to hunt." "I am just trying to help," Day said. "Then help by staying out of the way," Carr replied. "When we land, you will stay in the center of the formation. Do not wander. Do not make noise. Do not draw attention. If something attacks, hide. Let the real predators handle it." Day's face burned with humiliation, but he nodded and walked away. Behind him, he heard Rax laugh. "The human looks ready to cry. How did such a weak species ever leave their homeworld?" They landed on Cathara the next morning. The planet was beautiful and terrifying. They sat down in a jungle that glowed with bioluminescent plants. Everything shimmered with blue and green light. The trees were massive and strange sounds echoed from every direction. "Stay close," Carr ordered as they disembarked. "Weapons ready." The team moved in formation with Carr leading, Rax and Shaw on the flanks, Gron behind them, and Pip scouting from above. Day walked in the middle, carrying his scanner and trying not to trip over the thick roots that covered the ground. The jungle was alive with movement. Day saw creatures skittering in the trees, things sliding through the undergrowth and shapes moving in the shadows. His scanner went crazy with readings. Every plant and animal here was adapted to kill. They made camp as night fell. Carr posted watches, but he did not include Day in the rotation. "You need your sleep, soft skin," Carr said. "Unlike us, your species gets weak without rest." Day wanted to argue, but he was exhausted. The high gravity of Cathara was harder on him than the others. He lay down in his sleeping roll and tried to rest. He woke to screaming. Something was attacking the camp. Day scrambled up and saw shapes moving in the darkness. They looked like wolves made of shadow, with too many legs and eyes that glowed red. There were at least 20 of them. Carr and his pack moved like lightning. The Vrin hunters were deadly, their claws ripping through the creatures with brutal efficiency. Gron swung a massive blade, cutting down anything that came close. Pip dive-bombed from above using some kind of sonic attack that stunned the creatures. Day grabbed a stunner from his pack and fired at the nearest creature, but his hands were shaking. The shot went wide. Another creature lunged at him and Day fell backward, scrambling away. Shaw killed the creature before it reached him. The Vrin did not even look at Day as she moved on to the next target. The fight lasted only a few minutes. When it was over, the team was surrounded by dead creatures. Shaw had a deep cut on her left shoulder. Everyone else was unharmed except Day, who sat on the ground breathing hard, his stunner still unfired. "Pathetic," Gron said, looking down at him. "You did nothing. You just hid like prey." "I am not trained for combat," Day said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Then you are useless," Rax said. "We should leave the human here. It will only slow us down." "No," Carr said. "The Coalition wants it alive. It stays." But his tone made it clear he agreed with Rax. Day noticed that Shaw's wound was bleeding badly. "Let me look at that," he said, pulling out his medical kit. Shaw pulled away. "I do not need help from a soft skin." "You're losing a lot of blood," Day said. "At least let me seal the wound." Carr nodded to Shaw, who reluctantly let Day approach. He cleaned and sealed the wound quickly, using techniques he had learned in medical training. Shaw watched him with her glowing eyes but said nothing. "Thank you," Day said when he finished. Shaw just turned away. No acknowledgement. No gratitude. To her, accepting help from someone weak was shameful. The team settled back down, but Day could not sleep. He sat up, reviewing the attack in his mind. The creatures had not been random. They had moved with purpose, coordinating their strikes. And they had stopped attacking suddenly, as if something had called them off. Day pulled out his scanner and reviewed the recordings. His blood ran cold when he saw the pattern. The creatures had not been trying to kill them. They had been driving the team in a specific direction. "We are being herded," Day said quietly. Nobody heard him, or if they did, they ignored him. Day spent the rest of the night on watch even though he was not supposed to. While the others slept, he scanned the perimeter, and that was when he saw them. Territorial markings on the trees, claw marks that were far too large to belong to any creature they had seen. Something massive lived in this jungle, something that used other predators to drive prey toward it, and the team was walking directly into its territory. Day tried to tell Carr in the morning, but the Vryn hunter barely listened. "Every death world has apex predators," Carr said. "That is why I am here. If something wants to challenge me, it will learn what a real hunter is." "This is not about pride," Day said desperately. "We need to change our route." "I do not take orders from prey," Carr said, his voice cold. "You are here to provide information when asked. Nothing more. Do your job and be silent." The team moved deeper into the jungle. Day walked in silence, but his mind raced. He kept scanning, kept watching, and he saw more signs. Tracks in the mud, broken trees, the remains of massive kills. They were being watched. He was sure of it now. On the third day, they reached a clearing. In the center was a pile of bones. Not just any bones, but the remains of multiple large predators, all arranged in a specific pattern. "A hunting ground," Shaw said quietly. "Something displays its kills here." "Finally, a worthy opponent," Carr said. There was excitement in his voice. The Vryn lived for the hunt, and the bigger the prey, the better. Day looked at the bones more carefully. His scanner identified species from all over the galaxy. "These creatures were not native to Cathara," he said. "They were from previous expeditions." The team fell silent. "Whatever lives here has been killing off-worlders for years," Day continued. "It collects the strongest hunters, and now it has been driving us here since we landed." "Then it wants to meet me," Carr said. His claws extended. "Good. I will add its bones to this pile." But Day saw something the others did not. In the pattern of bones there was a message. A warning. The creature that lived here did not just kill, it tested. It hunted hunters, and they had just walked into its arena. The attack came at sunset. The creature emerged from the jungle like a nightmare made flesh. It stood 40 feet tall on 4 massive legs, with a body that looked like it was made from metal and organic material fused together. Its head was all teeth and sensors. 6 eyes glowed with red light. The thing moved with terrifying speed despite its size. Day's scanner identified it as a Catharan Titan, a biomechanical apex predator that evolved to hunt the strongest creatures on the planet. It had thick armor plating covering vital areas, claws that could crush steel, and intelligence that rivaled most sentient species. Carr did not hesitate. He roared a challenge and charged his pack right behind him. Gron followed, his war cry shaking the trees. Pip flew high, trying to find weak points in the creature's armor. Day ran, not because he was brave, but because staying would mean death. He dove behind a fallen tree and watched the battle unfold. The Vryn fought like demons. Carr moved with impossible grace, his claws finding gaps in the Titan's armor. Rax and Shaw attacked from different angles, coordinating their strikes perfectly. Gron's massive blade sparked against the creature's metal plating, but the Titan was faster and smarter. It ignored the smaller attacks and focused on Carr, recognizing him as the alpha predator. The creature's tail whipped around, catching Carr in the chest and sending him flying. He crashed into a tree with a sickening crack. Rax roared in fury and leaped at the Titan's head. The creature caught him mid-air with one massive claw and slammed him into the ground. Once, twice, 3 times. When it released him, Rax did not get up. Shaw screamed and attacked with renewed fury, but she was too small. The Titan swatted her aside like an insect. Gron tried to help, but one strike from the creature's tail broke his weapon and sent him tumbling backward. Pip dove from above, using his sonic attack. The Titan's head turned toward the flying alien, and Day saw the creature's eyes light up. It opened its mouth and released some kind of energy pulse. Pip fell from the sky unconscious. The battle was over in less than 5 minutes. Carr was wounded badly, bleeding from multiple cuts. Rax was dead. Shaw was injured and barely conscious. Gron was alive but in no condition to fight. Pip lay motionless on the ground. The Titan stood over its victory, studying each fallen hunter. Then it turned toward Day's hiding spot. All 6 eyes locked onto him. Day's heart stopped. The creature could see him. It took 1 step forward, then another. Day fumbled for his stunner, but he knew it would be useless. Then Carr moved. The Vryn hunter was still alive, still fighting. He lunged at the Titan's leg, his claws digging deep. The creature turned its attention back to Carr, recognizing him as the greater threat. Carr fought with everything he had, but he was too wounded. The Titan struck him again, and this time Carr could not get up. The creature loomed over the fallen hunter, preparing to deliver the killing blow. Day did something stupid. He ran out from cover and threw a rock at the Titan. It bounced off the creature's armor harmlessly, but it got the Titan's attention. The creature turned to look at Dee. Then it made a sound that might have been laughter. It turned back to Carr, dismissing Day as beneath notice. Not worth killing. That dismissal saved Carr's life. The Titan grabbed Carr's unconscious body in its jaws and walked away into the jungle, carrying its prize. Day realized with horror what was happening. The creature was taking Carr somewhere to finish him off slowly. Gron crawled over to Dee. The Creath's armor was cracked and he was bleeding badly. "We need to call for rescue," Gron said. "The mission is over." "Carr is still alive," Day said. "He is dead," Gron said flatly. "That thing will kill him. We cannot fight it. We need to leave now." Day looked at Shaw, who was trying to get up. She looked at him with her glowing eyes. "Save the hunter," she said weakly. "Please, he is my alpha. My brother. Do not let him die alone." "I am not a fighter," Day said, but even as he said it, he knew what he had to do. An idea formed in his mind. A crazy, desperate idea based on something he had learned years ago in school. Back on Earth, before humans had tools or weapons, they hunted using a method no other predator could match. They were persistence hunters. They did not kill with strength or speed. They killed with time. "Stay here," Day told Gron. "Protect the others. I am going after Carr." "You?" Gron said. "You will die." "Maybe," Day said. "But I have to try." He grabbed his scanner, his water supply, and some rations. Then he started running. The Titan's tracks were easy to follow. The creature was huge and heavy, leaving deep marks in the soft jungle floor. Day followed at a steady pace, not sprinting, just jogging. He could keep this pace for hours. For days if he had to. He found blood on the ground. Carr's blood. The Vryn was still alive, at least for now. Day ran. The jungle grew darker as night fell, but he did not stop. He turned on his scanner's light and kept moving. His legs burned. His lungs ached. But he did not stop. An hour passed. Then two. Day heard sounds ahead. The Titan was resting, probably feeding. Day circled around and threw rocks at the creature, not to hurt it, but to annoy it, to keep it moving. The Titan roared in fury and chased him briefly, but Day was already gone, moving through the jungle. He was slower than the Titan, but he was more maneuverable. And he did not need to rest. Hour 3. Day's body screamed at him to stop. His species was built for endurance, but even humans had limits. He drank water while running. He ate energy bars without slowing down. And he kept following the Titan. Hour 4. The Titan tried to ambush him. It had circled back, hiding in the darkness. But Day's scanner picked up its heat signature. He changed direction and kept going. Hour 6. Day was exhausted, but he saw something. The Titan was moving slower. The creature was built for power and speed, but not for endurance. It was starting to tire. Hour 8. The Titan stopped to rest near a stream. Day threw more rocks and made loud noises. The creature roared and charged him. Day ran, leading it away from its resting spot. Hour 12. Day's vision blurred. His legs felt like they were made of stone. But the Titan was stumbling now. Its movements were sluggish. It was confused, disoriented. Nothing had ever chased it like this before. Hour 16. The jungle opened into a field of thermal vents. Hot steam rose from cracks in the ground. Day had been leading the Titan here deliberately. The creature's sensors relied partly on heat detection. In this area, it would be blind. The Titan was barely moving now. It had not fed properly. It had not rested. Every time it tried to stop, Day harassed it. The creature's armor was damaged from crashing through the jungle. Its movements were uncoordinated. Hour 20. Day fell to his knees. He could not run anymore. His body had given everything it had. But when he looked up, he saw the Titan had also stopped. The creature stood on shaking legs, its head hanging low. It was defeated not by strength but by exhaustion. A sound made Day turn. Carr emerged from the thermal mist. The Vryn hunter had recovered enough to move. He had been following Day's trail for hours. Blood still covered his body, but his eyes were clear and focused. Carr looked at the exhausted Titan. Then he looked at Day, collapsed on the ground. Understanding passed between them. You hunted it, Carr said quietly. For 20 hours. Without stopping. You brought it down. Day could not speak. He just nodded. Carr walked toward the Titan. The creature tried to fight, but it had nothing left. Carr's claws found its throat, and the apex predator of Cathara fell. Carr stood over the dead creature for a long moment. Then he walked back to Day and knelt beside him. The Vryn hunter's eyes held something new. Something that looked like respect. I was wrong, Carr said. Your species is not prey. You hunt differently than any predator I have ever known. You do not kill with strength. You kill with time itself. You break your prey by never stopping. Never resting. Never giving up. Day tried to respond, but exhaustion took him. He collapsed. And the last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was Carr lifting him carefully, cradling the human in his forearms. Rest, Hunter, Carr said softly. You have earned it. Day woke in the ship's medical bay. Every muscle in his body hurt. His legs felt like they had been beaten with hammers. His lungs burned with each breath. But he was alive. Shaw sat beside his bed. The Vryn hunter watched him with her glowing eyes. When she saw him wake, she made a small gesture of respect, touching her forehead with one clawed hand. You should not have survived, Shaw said quietly. 20 hours running without rest. No one can do that. But you did. Where is Carr? Day asked, his voice rough. Outside, Shaw said. He has not left this room since we returned. He waits for you to wake. He says he owes you a blood debt. Before Day could ask what that meant, the door opened. Carr entered, moving carefully. His wounds were bandaged, but he looked much better than when Day last saw him. You are awake, Carr said. He pulled up a chair and sat. His forearms rested on his knees as he studied Day. Good, we need to talk. Shaw stood and left, giving them privacy. Carr waited until the door closed before speaking. I have been hunting for 30 years, Carr said. I have killed creatures that would destroy armies. I have hunted on worlds that would make Cathara look safe. I thought I understood what it meant to be a predator. He paused. I was wrong. Day sat up slowly. I just did what I had to do. No, Carr said firmly. You did something I could not. You hunted the Titan using a method my species does not understand. You used time as a weapon, persistence, endurance. You wore it down until it could not fight anymore. His eyes gleamed. That is not the method of prey. That is the method of an apex predator. A different kind of apex, but no less deadly. I am not a predator, Day said. I am a scientist. You are both, Carr said. And you saved my life. That creates a bond between us, a debt that must be repaid. The door opened again and Gron entered. The Kraith warrior's armor was repaired and he looked uncomfortable. He approached Day's bed and did something that shocked Day completely. He bowed. I was wrong about you, Gron said. His voice was stiff as if the words hurt. I called you weak. I said you were useless. I was a fool. You did what none of us could do. You have my respect, human, and my apology. Gron left quickly as if staying longer would be too embarrassing. Day sat in stunned silence. The others feel the same, Carr said. Even Pip, though he is still recovering. You changed how they see your species, but more than that, you changed how I see you. He leaned forward. I want to offer you something. Something no non-Vryn has ever been offered before. What is it? Dee asked. The blood brother bond, Carr said. It is an ancient tradition among my people. When two hunters prove themselves equal in a hunt, they can become blood brothers. They share hunts. They share victories. They share scars. They become family not by birth but by choice and respect. Day stared. But I am not Vryn, I am human. That does not matter, Carr said. Strength comes in many forms. Power comes in many forms. I thought the Vryn way was the only way to hunt. But you showed me something new. Your species hunts on a different scale. Where we measure strength in moments, you measure it in hours. In days, you are patient death, and that is worthy of respect. What does this bond involve? Day asked carefully. A ceremony, Carr said. On my ship, witnessed by my pack. We will share our hunts, our stories, our scars. Then we will fight as equals. And finally we will mix our blood, binding us as brothers. Day thought about it. This was unprecedented. A human and a Vryn bonded as equals. It could change everything, not just for him but for all of humanity. I accept, Day said. Carr's expression shifted into something that might have been a smile. Good. We will perform the ceremony when you are recovered. 3 days. That will give me time to prepare. News of the ceremony spread through the station like wildfire. Yuna found Day in his quarters on the second day. She looked worried. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "Do you know what you are agreeing to?" "A bond between equals," Day said. "Equals," Yuna repeated. "Day, the Vryn are the most feared species in the galaxy. If you do this, you will be tied to Kar for life. His enemies become your enemies. His battles become your battles." "I know," Day said, "but this is bigger than me. This could change how the galaxy sees humans." "We are not weak. We are just different," Yuna sighed. "You always were stubborn, fine, but be careful. The Vryn do not do anything halfway." The ceremony took place on Kar's ship. The main hold had been cleared and decorated with hunting trophies. Other Vryn attended, including Shaw and several members of Kar's extended pack. They watched from the shadows with glowing eyes. Day wore simple clothing as instructed. Kar stood in the center of the room, also dressed plainly. He gestured for Day to approach. "We begin," Kar said. His voice carried through the room. "Tonight I offer the blood brother bond to Lee Day of Earth. He has proven himself a hunter. He has proven himself worthy." Shaw stepped forward carrying a ceremonial blade. "First, the sharing of hunts," she said. For the next hour, Kar and Day took turns telling stories. Kar spoke of hunts across dozens of worlds, of creatures he had faced and defeated. His voice was filled with pride and memory. When it was Day's turn, he felt inadequate. His stories were not about hunting. They were about research, about discovery, about learning. But he told them anyway. He spoke about studying dangerous creatures, about surviving hostile environments, about never giving up even when things seemed impossible. The Vryn listened in silence. When Day finished, Shaw nodded. "Different hunts," she said. "But hunts nonetheless. The hunt for knowledge is still a hunt." "Second, the sharing of scars," Shaw continued. Kar removed his shirt, revealing dozens of scars across his body. Each one had a story. A battle fought. A lesson learned. Day had fewer scars, but he showed what he had. Burns from acid. Cuts from sharp plants. Bruises from falls. "These scars show you have suffered," Shaw said. "You have endured. That is worthy." Third, the trial of equals, Shaw announced. Kar and Day faced each other in the center of the room. "We will fight," Kar explained. "Not to kill, but to test, to prove we understand each other's strength." They fought hand to hand. Kar was faster and stronger, and Day lasted less than a minute before he was pinned. The Vryn watching made sounds of disappointment, but Kar stood and helped Day up. "That was expected," Kar said. "In direct combat I am superior, but that is not the only kind of fight." He gestured to the room. "Now we hunt. I will give you a head start. You will evade me for as long as you can. If you last 1 hour, you pass." Day ran. The ship was large and complex, full of corridors and rooms. He used his smaller size to squeeze through gaps Kar could not fit. He climbed through ventilation shafts. He doubled back on his trail. He used every trick he could think of. Kar hunted him with the focus of a true predator, but Day was elusive. He kept moving, never staying in one place long. He used the environment to his advantage. 1 hour passed, then 2, then 3. When Kar finally cornered him, the Vryn hunter was breathing hard. 3 hours, Kar said. His voice held amazement. "You evaded me for 3 hours in my own ship. Incredible." They returned to the main hold where Shaw was waiting with the ceremonial blade. She looked impressed. "The final step," she said. "The blood bond." Kar took the blade and cut his palm, letting blood drip into a bowl. He handed the blade to Day, who did the same. Their blood mixed in the bowl, human red and Vryn dark blue, creating purple. Kar pressed his bleeding palm against Day's. "From this moment we are blood brothers," Kar said. "Your enemies are my enemies. Your victories are my victories. I will stand with you until death separates us." "Blood brothers," Day repeated. He felt something shift inside him. A connection forming, a bond deeper than friendship. The Vryn in the room began to sing. It was a haunting sound, wordless at first, then forming into lyrics. Shaw translated quietly. "They sing of the patient death," Shaw said, "of the hunter who kills with time. They sing of humanity, the species that never stops. You have given my people something, Lee Day, a new understanding of what it means to hunt." The ceremony ended with a feast. Day sat beside Kar, and for the first time since arriving at the station he felt like he belonged. Not as a weak human to be protected, but as an equal, as a hunter in his own right. News of the ceremony reached the coalition within hours. By the next day, it was all anyone could talk about. A human had become blood brother to a Vryn apex hunter. The implications were staggering. Commander Thex called Day to his office. The Velcros looked at him with new eyes. "You have done something remarkable," Thex said. "You have changed perceptions. Not just of you, but of your entire species." "I just did what felt right," Day said. "Sometimes that is enough," Thex said. He paused. "The Coalition wants to meet with you. They have questions about humanity, about your methods, about what other capabilities your species has that we have not recognized." Day realized what was happening. The galaxy was starting to see humans differently, not as weak prey, but as a different kind of predator, one that hunted with patience and time, and it all started because one human refused to give up. 6 months after the Cathera expedition, the galaxy looked different to Day. He walked through Coalition Station Omega-7, and aliens no longer pushed him aside. Some even moved out of his way with respect. The mark of the blood brother bond was visible on his hand, a scar that matched Car's, and everyone knew what it meant. Other humans had started forming partnerships with Vryn hunters. Not blood brother bonds, but hunting pairs. The Vryn had begun to see humans as valuable allies. Together, human endurance and Vryn power created teams that could tackle missions other species could not handle. Dee had been promoted to senior xenobiologist. Commander Thex treated him with grudging respect now. Una had been promoted too, and more humans were arriving at the station every week. Humanity's reputation was slowly changing, but not everyone was happy about it. Some species still saw humans as inferior. They said the bond with Car was a fluke. They said one success did not prove anything. Then the Ravik swarm arrived. The first colony that fell was New Jeju, a mining world on the outer rim. The Raviks came in waves, billions of insect-like creatures that consumed everything in their path. The colony sent out a distress call, and by the time Coalition forces arrived, everyone was dead. Day watched the reports with growing horror. The Raviks were not just killers. They were a swarm intelligence coordinating attacks across entire planets. They could regenerate from almost any injury. They bred faster than any known species, and they were spreading. The Coalition sent 3 battle fleets to stop them. All 3 failed. The Raviks simply overwhelmed them with numbers. For every 100 Raviks killed, 1,000 more appeared. They could outlast any conventional military response. Within 2 months, the Raviks had consumed 7 colony worlds and were moving toward New Sol, a major human settlement with 50 million people. The Coalition Council held an emergency meeting. Day attended as the human representative, along with Car and other military leaders. The mood was grim. "We cannot stop them," Admiral Vex said. The massive Velcros spread tactical displays across the table. "Every time we fight them, they adapt. They learn. They grow stronger. We are losing this war. We need to evacuate New Sol," another counselor said. "Get as many people out as possible before the Raviks arrive." "That gives them another world," Car growled. "We cannot keep running. We need to hunt them, kill them all." "We tried that," Admiral Vex said. "We killed millions of them. It did not matter. They just bred more." Day had been studying the Raviks for weeks, analyzing every battle, every report. He raised his hand hesitantly. "The human has something to say," Car said, his voice carrying authority. "Listen to him." All eyes turned to Day. He felt the weight of those stares, but pushed forward. "The Raviks are winning because they outlast us," he said. "They regenerate. They reproduce. They wait us out. But what if we do not let them?" "Explain," Admiral Vex said. Day brought up his own tactical display. "The Ravik swarm is controlled by queens. Each queen manages millions of drones. Kill the queen, and that section of the swarm becomes disorganized. The problem is the queens are protected deep inside the swarm. Our forces cannot reach them before being overwhelmed." "We know this already," a counselor said impatiently. "But we have been fighting them wrong," Day continued. "We treat them like an army to be defeated in battle. Instead, we should treat them like prey to be hunted. We do not fight the swarm. We hunt the queens. That is suicide," Admiral Vex said. "You cannot reach the queens through millions of drones." "Not if you fight through them," Day agreed. "But what if you do not fight? What if you hunt them the way humans hunt? Small teams, fast-moving, never stopping, never resting. We pursue the queens relentlessly. We give them no time to breed, no time to regenerate, no time to coordinate. We break them through persistence." The room erupted in argument. Some called it madness. Others said it was impossible. But Carr stood up, his forearms raised for silence. "The human is right," Carr said. "I have seen how his species hunts. They do not win through strength. They win through time, through persistence. If we combine human endurance with Vryn hunting skills, we can do this." "It would take months," Admiral Vex said. "Maybe longer." "Then we hunt for months," Carr said simply. "I will lead the first team. My blood brother will coordinate the strategy." The council argued for another hour, but eventually they agreed. They had no other options. If this plan failed, New Sol would fall and the Ravix would continue spreading. Day worked day and night organizing the teams. Each team consisted of 2 humans and 2 Vryn. The humans provided endurance and strategic thinking. The Vryn provided combat skills and killing power. They trained together, learning each other's strengths. Yuna joined one of the teams, paired with a young Vryn hunter named Tala. Gron, the Kraith warrior who had once mocked Day, volunteered to lead supply missions. Even Pip, fully recovered from his injuries, signed up as a scout. Carr and Day led the primary assault team. They would target the largest Ravix queen, the one coordinating the attack on New Sol. The hunt began 3 weeks later. They inserted on the edge of Ravix territory using stealth ships. The moment they landed, the swarm detected them. Millions of Ravix drones swarmed toward their position. "Run," Day said calmly. The team ran, not in a panic but in a controlled retreat. They moved through the infested territory, avoiding major concentrations of drones, keeping just ahead of the swarm. The Ravix pursued, but the team never stopped moving. Day 1 passed, then Day 2. The team kept a steady pace, jogging when possible, sprinting when necessary. They ate while moving. They slept in shifts, with half the team running while the others rested. It was exhausting, but humans were built for this. The Vryn struggled more. They were stronger and faster in short bursts, but sustained running was not natural for them. Carr pushed through, matching Day's pace through sheer willpower. "How much longer?" Carr asked on Day 3. "Another week to reach the Queen," Day said. "Maybe more." "A week," Carr repeated. Then he laughed, a harsh sound. "My people train for days of combat, but you humans train for weeks of running. No wonder you survived on your death world." They kept moving. The Ravix swarm followed, trying to cut them off, trying to surround them. But the team was too mobile, too unpredictable. They changed direction constantly, never following the same path twice. Other teams reported similar progress. Yuna's team was pursuing a smaller queen. They had been running for 5 days straight and were still going. Other teams were encountering heavy resistance but refused to give up. On Day 7, Day's team reached the primary queen's location. She was massive, the size of a building surrounded by millions of drones. Under normal circumstances, it would be impossible to reach her. But the team had been harassing her forces for a week. The drones were exhausted, disorganized. They had been chasing the team nonstop and were making mistakes. "Now we fight," Carr said. The team charged into the swarm. The Vryn killed with brutal efficiency, their claws ripping through drones. The humans used weapons and tactics, covering the Vryn and protecting their flanks. They fought their way to the Queen. She was powerful, with thick armor and deadly appendages, but she was also tired. Her regeneration was slower than it should be. A week of constant harassment had weakened her. Carr delivered the killing blow, his claws piercing her central nerve cluster. The Queen collapsed, and the drones around them became confused, stumbling without direction. "One down," Day said, breathing hard. 15 more to go. They kept hunting. Week after week, month after month. The teams pursued every Ravix queen they could find. Some teams failed, some died, but more volunteers replaced them, humans and Vryn working together. The Ravix began to break. They had never faced an enemy like this before, an enemy that simply would not stop. That chased them across worlds. That gave them no rest, no peace, no mercy. After 3 months, the Ravix sent a message. They wanted to surrender. The Coalition Council could not believe it. The Ravix had never surrendered before. They always fought to the last drone. But they had been broken by something they could not comprehend. Humanity had taught the galaxy a new kind of warfare, not through strength or technology, but through patience and persistence, through the willingness to hunt for as long as it took. The formal surrender took place on New Sol. The colony was saved. 50 million people were alive because human hunters refused to give up. Day stood before the Coalition Council for the recognition ceremony. Beside him stood Carr, and behind them stood dozens of human Vryn teams, all bearing the scars of months of hunting. The Council formally reclassified humanity from a minor species to an apex predator species. It was unprecedented. Most species took thousands of years to earn that recognition. Humans had done it in less than a year. How do you explain your species' success? Admiral Vex asked during the ceremony. Day thought carefully before answering. We are not the strongest, he said. We are not the fastest. We do not have claws or armor or venom, but we have something else. We have endurance. We have patience. We have the ability to keep going when everyone else has given up. Where other species measure strength in moments, we measure it in days, in weeks, in months. We are humanity, and we outlast everything. The room erupted in applause, not just from humans, but from other species too.